When you say compete on China terms, ultimately it's about forcing them not to have access to the most sophisticated GPUs and therefore having to do more with less. We become more DeepSeek.
Absolutely, exactly like DeepSeek. I mean, you remember when there was the market sell-off when DeepSeek made its arrival, because everyone thought, wow, China knows how to do this more cheaply and with less computing power and so on. But the American response, and the response that we got from the likes of Satya Nadella at Microsoft, was, don't worry, because our differentiator is we can do this on a bigger scale with more computing power, we can serve more people, we can do more inferencing, the powering of AI once you've trained it. Now, if all of that gets more expensive, which these tariffs seem set to do, then all of a sudden that advantage doesn't go away completely, but I think it becomes just harder to deploy, and it could take longer to deploy as well. So I've spoken to a number of people who have said maybe if you're a small startup in the space, you might be thinking maybe we try and become more of a DeepSeek than an OpenAI, for example.
Well, your core point is that the ability of a Meta or an Amazon or a Microsoft to invest was built on its core businesses. And that is where the uncertainty impact comes, I think, at least. Yeah,
absolutely. And last earnings season, all of these companies came out and said and shared their capex plans for the year, and they were huge. I think I totted up at one point more than $350 billion that was going to be spent on data centers and getting more energy and so forth. That money, even if they keep at those levels, which I think is in question, it's not going to go as far, because building these data centers just got considerably more expensive, even though the sort of core component, the semiconductor right now, isn't subject to a tariff, although some are speculating that it might be in the not too distant future. So yes, and all of that spending was concocted and agreed, backed by investors on the basis that companies like Apple have the iPhone and it was a roaring business, or companies like Meta have this great advertising business that just prints money. That may not be the case anymore.